Hi, how you doing? My name is Joanne with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. I would like to welcome you to Parenting Connections. Today we're going to be talking about communication. This program was developed by Dr. Green from Texas A&M AgriLife Extension. During this presentation, we're going to be talking about the basic components of communication. You'll also learn to increase awareness of the developmental factors that influence a child's ability to communicate. In addition, you'll learn to explore factors that promote healthy parent-child communication. And lastly, you'll learn how to avoid common communication roadblocks. First of all, communication is defined as a process by which a person transmits to another person or a group information about his or her ideas and feelings and then receives information back. So with communication, you have an individual, you have a message, and you have the receiver, whether it be a group or another individual. There's times where this message can be very vague. There's just when misunderstanding can happen. And then when we're sending this message or information, this is normally ideas and feelings which other people cannot relate without the communication. So let's learn a little bit more about communication. Through communication, ideas are exchanged. New information is gained, conflicts are resolved, relationships are developed, emotions are expressed. So when you're communicating with your child or even a partner, you're always expressing what you're thinking, what you're feeling, right? A lot of people don't understand what you're thinking or how you're processing it or how you're feeling. So this is why it's very important when you're communicating with someone to fully talk about what you're thinking, how you're thinking, what you're feeling, and why are you thinking that way, and why are you feeling that way? How does it make you feel? New information is gained. Well, children are growing up every day. There is constantly new information is learned every day. Conflicts are resolved. Without communication, that problem will always exist. When there is a conflict or a problem, it's important to fully communicate why and how this problem occurred. How did you feel? Why did you do that? Relationships are developed. Building relationship with your children doesn't happen overnight. It happens with progress, with communicating with them, reading them a bedtime story, talking to them on how their day went, letting them know if they need anything. Emotions are expressed. We really don't react the same, right? For example, something may upset you, however, it may not upset the other individual. Just an example, maybe you see a pile of dirty dishes and you get very frustrated, whereas your spouse sees a pile of dishes and he can continue to work. So emotions need to be expressed. Why you feel stressed out, how this makes you feel, how can you resolve this problem. However, there is poor communication. This can lead to an excess of family conflicts, ineffective problem solving, lack of intimacy, weak emotional bonding, and then you'll start also observing behavior problems in children. Without communication, you're not talking to one another. Of course, there's going to be family conflicts. You're not going to understand what's going on in the other person's life, who has to pick up who, what time does your child get out of soccer practice, what time your other child gets out of tutorials. So there needs to be a communication. Planning a family schedule is very important. Who's going to cook that evening? Does someone need to pick up some groceries? Ineffective problem solving. With a lack of communication and not communicating with your child, remember, you as a parent, you are the role model. So the way that you do things in your household, your children are going to learn from that. Lack of intimacy. If you're not communicating with your partner, well, of course, there's going to be a lack of intimacy. Weak emotional bonding. Trust doesn't happen overnight. It is built within time. So spending time with your child is very important to build that trust, to build that bonding. Playing games with them, watching television. Behavior problems in children. When there's no communication, you start observing the behavior problems with children. The kids may start crying, they may not want to do their homework, may not want to go to school. they're going to be throwing some tantrums. So this is why it's very important to communicate with your child. As I mentioned previously, there are some components to communication: the sender, the person who initiates the communication, the message, what you're trying to say, and the receiver, the person that's listening and responding to the sender. Now, the sender who initiates the communication, that may be the individual that's going to speak. That individual, the sender, needs to understand, who am I trying to send this message to? Do I need to tailor this message? Am I speaking with a 3-year-old or am I speaking with an adult? So obviously with those age difference, you're going to have to tailor the message. The message, what is it that you're trying to say? Is your message very specific or is it vague? For example, if I say, hey, go give me that, you're probably going to be thinking, what is that? Is that a pen? Is that a pencil? Is that a coffee? Is that hand sanitizer? Just things that I have around here. So be very specific. Would you please give me the hand sanitizer? Thank you. And also the way we, our tone, how is our tone? Are we yelling at them? Well, if someone yells at you, well, more than likely that other person is not going to respond very well, right? So that message plays a huge role on your, such as your voice tone, your body language, being very clear and specific. Now the receiver, which is who's listening to and responding to the message. So who is that receiver? Once again, is it a 3-year-old or is it an adult? Are they distracted? Are they on their phone? Are they watching TV? And if they're distracted, more than likely they're not going to understand the message fully, right? So this is when we get misunderstanding. So we have to understand, is the receiver being distracted? If so, can we ask them nicely, do you mind turning off the TV? I need to talk to you. And also, we understand differently, right? So we can have multiple people listening to the same message. Everyone is going to understand this message completely different. So this is when we ask for verification. Okay, what did you understand? So what are you going to do? After you're done with homework, do you mind throwing out the trash? Which trash? Is it the bathroom trash? Is it the kitchen trash? What is trash? So talking to your kids exactly what you want for them to do and asking, okay, what are you going to do? Please let me know so that I know that you understood correctly. Because otherwise, if it's not going to get done, we end up getting mad, right? We end up getting frustrated. So this can help you eliminate a stress barrier. Message types by percentage. Look at this chart. What do you observe? The way we communicate, ideally one would think, oh, we talk to one another, that's how we're communicating. However, by looking at this chart, 55% of it is done by body language. I'm sure you as parents, you know, just by looking at a child, you know if they're sad, if they're happy, if they're not feeling very well, right? So that's the first thing you're going to observe. 55% of that is through your communication. You're already going to know how you're going to react. Now 38% is by our tone. So if we're yelling, how is the other person going to respond? If we're being sarcastic, some children don't understand sarcasm. 7% is only done by verbalizing, right? So think about when we do speak with our children, when we do speak with our spouse, how the body language, tone of voice, and verbal play a huge role in the way we communicate, right? Interpersonal communication. Now this goes with the who, what, where, when, why, and how. So when we're speaking with someone, who am I speaking with? Once again, am I speaking with a 3-year-old or am I speaking with an adult? Right? So we tailor the way we speak with who is present and who else is present, right? For example, when you're speaking with your child and they're with a group of peers, with their classmates, you have to understand you don't want to yell at them because honestly, how would you feel if your spouse yells at them? Not so great, right? So what you would do is pull them aside. So understand who is around there. What are you trying to say? Verbal and nonverbal. Eye rolling, your face, your body language plays a huge role on that. Being very specific, right? Rather than pointing at things, give me that, please give me the hand sanitizer. Where? The physical location. You already know that the way we communicate at home versus the way we communicate at church is completely different, right? If we're here at church, we give our children the eye stare, like, you're going to get it, just wait until we get home. When we're at our home, we'll feel more comfortable, right? So the location also does play a huge role on that. When? The timing of the message. Understand, everyone has stressors in their life. If you had a rough day, take time to relax before you speak with your child. Because when we are stressed out, we may say things that we don't mean. We may say hurtful things, right? So take a breather, relax, and then think about how you're going to approach this topic to your child. The motive behind the message. Why are you trying to say this? You're trying to better your child, right? You never want to put them down. So think about how you're going to approach this conversation. Is it going to improve their self-esteem? Is it going to improve themselves? So why is the reason that you're trying to communicate with your child? And how are you going to express it? That's through your facial expressions. There's times that people may look at us and they may think that we're mad. But look how your face is. Take the time, go to your mirror and just talk and see, is it angry? Is it sad? How are you expressing that message? Are you rolling your eyes? Your tone of voice as well also plays a huge role. So if you're really upset, remember the timing of the message. You need to be on control. You need to relax before we say hurtful things. Our physical gestures. A hug whenever your child is sad, that comfort just brings a lot of physical gestures. If your child's sad, hug them. That hug just makes them feel more comfort. Your body posture and your distance. Your body posture. How are you verbalizing this message? Is your hands crossed? If your hands are crossed, I don't know if you can see me, it's more like, I don't care, right? Or hurry up. Maybe you're not even looking at them. How do you feel when you're speaking with someone and they're not looking at you? It's very frustrating, right? So remember, you are the role model. So if you want your child to communicate properly, well, you also have to understand the interpersonal communication, the who, what, where, when, why, and how. So that all plays a role in communication. Now, factors that influence communication with children. So it's based on your chronological versus your development age. Every child, if you have multiple children, not all the children are the same, right? They have different characteristics, personalities, different experiences. Experiences also plays a huge role in the way they understand. So development, your child's stage of age. The way they develop physically, socially, emotionally, do they understand? Now, there are children that need more help than others. And also, your child best. You know how you're able to communicate with your child. Sometimes communicating with your child is just, let's play a game. And then when you're playing that game, you can say, oh, how did you feel when so-and-so told you this? You can have a simple conversation with them and they are expressing to them, and your children are expressing how they felt with not feeling so intimidated by that conversation. Factors that influence, and we're going to continue with that. The way we mature and the environment. This plays a role on your characteristic of your child, your personality. Some of your children can get mad really fast, right? Where some of them are more passive. And that's based on what they experience, where they're at, their environment. Are they one to travel from different locations, such as a military family? It's difficult trying to make new friends. So think about that. that can play a huge role in their personality, trying to make friends, trying to communicate with a stranger. The motivation and opportunity, what gets your kid going? Bringing incentives to them. If they're doing their homework, and how do you make sure that they want to do their homework right after school? Well, if you do your homework and I'll review it, if everything is done, maybe we can go get an ice cream, or maybe we can go play some basketball. So every child's different. There are children that just want to be inside and play video games as an incentive, or there's another child that would rather go outside and collect rocks. Every child is different. Practical strategies for promoting healthy parent-child communication. Communicate at your child's level. Remember, every child is different. So you know your child best, right? If you have multiple children, you know how to approach that child. So childs are limited by their development capacity. As infants, how do they communicate with you? Yes, they communicate with you. If they're hungry, they're going to be crying, right? If they feel sick, they're going to be very fussy. If they're sleepy, they're going to be a little cranky. So they're able to communicate with you at a young age, infants. As they get older, well, they're able to express their feelings, what's going on with them. Over time, children's communication skills become more complex, right? You are the role models. You're able to communicate with them. You're teaching them how to communicate in a correct manner. Verbally, use language your child will understand, right? Speak with your children. Depending on the age, that's when you have to tailor the conversation. Physically come down to your child's level. Kneel down, sit down if you have to. And why? Well, one, it's not too intimidating. Two, it eliminates any type of distractions, right? And also, it kind of feels like, you know what? My parents are actually giving me their full, undivided attention. I feel very important. Practical strategies. Pay attention to nonverbal messages. So, you are the parents, right? You can see when something is going wrong. And even if it's too quiet, something's going on, my kid is not up to no good, right? So you know your children best, right? So watch for your child's facial expression, body posture, hand gestures, and tone of voice. Understand the impact of your own nonverbal messages, such as an angry glare. Be an active listener. When you're speaking with your child, let them fully communicate. Try not to interrupt them, right? Maintain eye contact. Yes, as adults, we are busy. We're trying to juggle so many things, right? We go to work. We're trying to make lunch. We're trying to clean up. Yes, we understand that. It's a busy life. But, what's very important right now is your child, how they're developing, how they're feeling, right? So try to eliminate any unnecessary distraction. Turn off that TV. Turn off your phone, Avoid interrupting, as I mentioned before. Have them fully talk to you. And if you don't understand, ask more questions. And try to acknowledge the child's point of view. It's so easy to get mad at them. Well, you did this wrong, right? No. Try to say, well, why did you do this? Help me understand. At times, their point of view can make sense. Seek clarification when necessary. Fully communicate with your child. When you don't understand, ask questions. Don't assume. Communicate clearly and directly. Like I've been mentioning during this presentation, it's very important to be very specific. When you communicate, don't have vague statements. Intended messages should be clearly understood by the listener and should be directed at the appropriate target, meaning the receiver. Model clarity and directness for your children, and they will tend to reciprocate. Remember, you are the role model. So, if I'm getting mad at dad and yelling at him, my child's probably going to be yelling at dad too because, well, mom yells at him, right? So no, you want to make sure your kids are a sponge. They learn from you. So the way you're communicating with others, that's how they're going to communicate. So if you're communicating with your teacher and you're getting mad at them, what do you expect your child to do? Oh, give respect to authority, right? But we're not being respectful to any other individual. So you are the role model. Communicate frequently. Strong parent-child relationships require time together. It doesn't happen overnight. Every day you need to communicate with your child. Get any opportunity as possible, because guess what? When they're young, they always want to be with you, right? They're always glued to you at the hip. But when they get a little older in their teenage years, they're a little too cool for you, right? And you're going to miss that moment. But when you're constantly communicating with them, and when they get older, they're going to feel more confident in speaking with you when a problem occurs. They're going to want your advice. Create opportunities to talk and listen to your child. Now this can happen just driving them to school, or this can happen playing a board game with them, or going to the park. So create any opportunity, that way you can talk to them. Communications can occur in different situations, and that can be dinner time. Dinner time has been proven benefit of communicating with your child as impactful, where it can even affect their grades. So if you're communicating with your child during dinner time, according to studies, their grades improve. Use the I messages. Why do you think I messages? Whereas you are doing this wrong, I feel you could do something better, right? You're more threatening. I is more of a, we're working together, this is how I feel. It's not that threatening, right? Yous are more put me downs, blaming the victim, blaming your child, nagging your child. Emphasize the positive. It's so easy to look at the negative. Oh, you're doing this wrong. Why didn't you do this? Why are you behaving like this? Don't do that. Don't touch that, right? Easy, because you're observing the danger. But something that we want to try to reverse is talking about the positive. Thank you so much for cleaning your room. Thank you so much for making your bed. Thank you so much for doing your homework. Thank you so much for setting the dishes, right? Why? It makes your child feel, wow, my parents are paying attention to me. I feel good. I'm going to feel motivated in continuing to do these tasks because my parents acknowledge me. I am important. That compliment, your smile, the hugs, the pat on the back, it goes a long way, right? So try to avoid those negative messages that hurt that relationship, such as yelling, belittling, criticizing your child. Model effective communication skills. Children learn through your example. If you want your children to listen to you, well, you need to listen to them too, right? So it works both ways. So if we ask them, hey, how was your day? And then we start looking at our phones, or we start cooking, well, how is your child going to feel? Well, I guess I'm not that important, right? If you want your child to be clear and direct, communicate your thoughts and feelings clearly and directly as well. So talk about your feelings, talk about what you're thinking. Here are some communication roadblocks. The nagging, lecturing, please do this, do this, do this, do that, do that. Jenny, do this, Jenny, do that, Jenny, do this. And Jenny never does it. So we're constantly asking for them to do something, but nothing ever happens. Now, what will work is consequences right now. What will work is, please pick up your toys. If you pick up your toys, then we can play a board game. If the toys are not picked up, then we're not going to play, right? That's something that is more effective. Ordering, commanding, giving solutions with no choices, right? Constantly being that military parent, do this because I say so. Well, it's not directive, it's not anything that we discussed in our previous presentation. Interrupting them, not allowing others to share their thoughts. We asked them, why'd you do this? I don't care why you did this. You shouldn't have done this, right? We just interrupted them. Blaming and criticizing them. Placing the blame, it's all your fault that we cannot go to this location. How does it make you feel when someone puts the blame on you? Especially in the children, it hurts them, right? It lowers their self-esteem. Sarcasm, saying things you don't mean, implying the opposite. Children do not know about sarcasm. Threatening them. If you don't do this, you're never going to see grandma or grandpa. denying their feelings. Oh, you don't feel sad, get over it, it's not such a big deal. But to them, it is a big deal. So speak to them. Rejecting and ignoring them is probably the worst thing a parent can do, providing no support. As parents, we need to be supportive. We want to make sure that our child grows into becoming a positive child. Labeling and name calling them some ugly names. Now, in the Hispanic culture, there are times that I hear some name calling. That is something that we need to improve. It does hurt their self-esteem. Waffling, not being clear or direct with your child. Well, you can go here. No, you can't. We can't go here. If you're with your spouse, you all need to communicate first before communicating with your child. If your child asks, Mom, Dad, can I go to the movies? Let me speak with Mom and Dad first and we will find out. Because guess what? What happens if your child didn't do well at school? You need to be able to fully communicate with your spouse before confirming with an answer with your child. Right? Because if we're going to say, oh, go ask your mom, go ask your dad, go ask your mom, your child's going to be going back and forth, and guess what? Your child's going to make the answer. Oh, they said I can go. Right? Alrighty, so let's do a group activity. We're going to make lemonade out of lemons. We're going to overcome some common roadblocks in parent-child communication. Okay, so I'm going to see if this is working. I hope you can see this screen. Making lemonade out of lemons, overcoming common roadblocks in parent-child communication. I would like for you to complete this handout. And how you're going to complete it is, there is a roadblock right here to your left-hand side. For example, there's the nagging. There's the ordering, the interrupting, the blaming, the sarcasm, threatening, denying feelings, rejecting, labeling, and waffling. Now, there is an example of a situation. For example, child room is left a mess, and we're going to do a nagging. Now, something that is a negative message regarding nagging is, I've told you 1,000 times to pick up your room. What is something positive that you can say to your child when you notice your child's room is left a mess? How do you make this communication into a positive message? For example, would you please clean up your room? If you clean up your room, you can watch TV. That's okay, right? Alrighty, so that would be, I would like for you to do one for ordering, commanding. Here's an example. Child forgets to do his chore. Something that we do not want to say is, take out the trash now. How can you make it into a positive message? Please write this down so that way we can communicate over the phone. Interrupting. Parent interrupts child as she tries to explain why she made it home late. And something we don't want to say is, wait just a minute, let me say something. How do you turn it into a positive message? Blaming and criticizing. Child spills a glass of milk. And a negative message is, you can't do anything right. How do you make it into a positive message? Sarcasm. Child is irritable because he didn't get enough sleep. And something we don't want to say is, oh, aren't you in a good mood today? Threatening. Child was asked to clean his or her room on 3 occasions and failed to do so. Something we don't want to say is, clean your room or you'll be grounded for a week. Denying their feeling. Child is upset because a friend at school told her she no longer wants to be her friend. Something we don't want to say is, it can't be that bad. Rejecting, ignoring. Child waits until the last minute to complete his book report. Something we don't want to say, it's your problem, fix it. Labeling, name calling. Child expresses disappointment with a gift she received. Something we don't want to say is, you're such a spoiled brat. Waffling. Child asks parents if he can go to the mall with his friends. Something we don't want to say is, Well, maybe you can go tonight. Alrighty, so I would love to hear from your positive messages. We'll discuss this when we talk at the end. Well, this concludes our presentation. I would like to thank you. My name's Joanna with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, Hidalgo County. You do have my contact information. You can contact me when necessary. You're welcome to replay this video, or you're welcome to pause any slides. Thank you for watching the communication presentation on parenting connections. We look forward for the next program series. Thank you.